Disguised as his fiancée, a humble maid receives $1,000 and uncovers a life-changing truth. Clara Parker had always known Maplewood as her cozy cage. The charming streets, bustling with laughter and celebration, felt like a world where she didn't quite belong. At 24, she was a diligent maid, burdened by the weight of her grandparents' care, their frail bodies a constant reminder of her responsibilities. Yet her dreams, glimmering like distant stars, seemed forever out of reach. One sunny afternoon at the upscale hotel where she worked, Clara's monotonous cleaning routine was disrupted by a conversation that sliced through her heart. David Brooks, a charming businessman, was in desperate need of a pretend fiancée for an extravagant gala. $1,000 hung in the air, tantalizingly close. The thought of providing her grandparents with some comfort ignited a flicker of hope within her. Clara's stomach flipped as she stood there, mop in hand, torn between the nagging voice of doubt and the shimmering prospect of change. She could almost visualize the glimmer of new possibilities: the roof repair, new shoes for her grandma, the chance to breathe. After a stormy night of contemplation, Clara finally made her choice, fueled by the desire to lift her family from their modest existence. As the weekend unfolded, Clara found herself swept into a world of opulence. David's lavish lifestyle dazzled her, gowns flowing like liquid silk, laughter echoing in grand ballrooms, the sparkle of crystal chandeliers bright against the moonlit skies. Yet, the warmth of the lavish glow sometimes felt icy, a far cry from the authentic love she craved. When mingling with David's elite friends, Clara sensed their judgment like barbed wire. Her humble origins peeking through the glitzy facade startled some, while others regarded her as an amusing distraction. But amidst the glitter, Clara found something unexpected: David. He, too, seemed trapped behind the gilded cage of family reputation, struggling with his own aspirations. Long talks over midnight snacks turned into genuine connections, weaving dreams and disappointments into a shared tapestry of resilience and loyalty. Then, just as Clara began to believe she could find her place in this enchanted world, a careless comment from one of David's friends sent her reeling. "So, how much do they pay your type for playing dress-up?" The laughter that followed was like shards of ice piercing her chest. In that painfully tense moment, she reeled back, suddenly questioning her worth, her integrity. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Clara's heart raced, torn between the seductive comfort of wealth and her unwavering sense of self. Could she truly be happy if it meant sacrificing who she was? The clock ticked ominously as she pondered a precipice of decisions, her world shrinking around her while the laughter echoed in her ears. Would she choose the bright lights of this glittering life or retreat to the arms of her loving family, burdened but fiercely hers? The choice weighed heavily on her heart, and with each passing moment, the tension crackled like static electricity in the air, leaving Clara wondering, was this new world worth the price? Clara stood isolated in the lavish ballroom, a crystal chandelier sparkling overhead as she reflected on the laughter echoing around her. Each giggle seemed to mock her, slicing deeper into her heart. The icy facade of the elite crowd closed in on her, and suddenly the opulent surroundings felt like an overwhelming mist she couldn't escape. David noticed her struggle. With furrowed brows, he approached, his usual charm dimmed by concern. "Clara," he said softly, "are you all right?" His voice sliced through the haze, grounding her momentarily. She hesitated, wrestling with the turmoil inside. "I might feel out of place here, David," she finally admitted, searching his eyes for understanding. His expression softened further, revealing a glimpse of the man behind the playboy facade. "You belong here just as much as anyone else. Don't let their comments get to you." The sincerity in his voice began to thaw the icy grip around her heart. Yet, the feeling of inadequacy lingered. What if she couldn't transcend her humble beginnings? She fidgeted with the ornate dress, its beauty contrasting sharply with her feelings. How long could she maintain this charade? How long could David keep pretending she was someone she wasn't? As the night progressed, David attempted to reassure her with gentle teasing. I promise, I won't let them take you down tonight. Just stick by my side, okay? When he smiled, it reminded her of the way the sun breaks through storm clouds, bringing warmth and hope. But the pull of her family weighed heavily on her heart. Images of her grandparents flashed in her mind, her grandmother's gentle smile even in fatigue, her grandfather's stoic demeanor as he worked to hold everything together. They were her world, her roots, anchoring her to what truly mattered. The prospect of $1,000 felt both like freedom and a chain tethering her from who she was. As she tried to brush off the earlier comment, Clara couldn't shake the emotions swirling inside her. She loved how David held her hand tightly when they danced, how he brought her into conversations and made her feel valued. But with every compliment that slipped from his lips, a question tugged at her heart: would he still treasure her when the truth unveiled itself? As the gala reached a fever pitch, Clara felt torn. Should she leap deeper into this ocean of wealth and glamour, or should she retreat to the familiar embrace of her modest but loving home? Then, like a bolt from the blue, an opportunity interrupted her reverie. One of David's friends, a heavily adorned woman with an air of superiority, approached them. David! There you are. We have a surprise. Clara's heart thudded in her chest. The woman gestured grandly, and suddenly, the crowd around them quieted, anticipation crackling in the air like thunder. Are you ready to unveil your engagement to the world? The question reverberated through the hall, drawing everyone's attention to David and Clara. Clara's breath caught in her throat. The gaze of the room pivoted like spotlights, illuminating her standing as David's beloved. Suddenly, the weight of her decision flooded back, pressing down on her like an anvil. David met her eyes, a mix of excitement and uncertainty dancing between them. Clara's heart raced as the moment expanded, filling her with a sense of urgency. What would happen if she said yes? What would happen if she said no? In that heartbeat, with all eyes on her, her world spun toward the brink of revelation. What would she choose when all eyes demanded an answer? The room held its breath as Clara stood frozen, feeling the weight of each gaze leveled upon her. Laughter faded into a hushed whisper, replaced by an expectant hush that filled the expansive ballroom. Her heart raced, it felt like it might burst free from her chest. She shifted slightly, clutching David's hand tighter, channeling the warmth that surged from him into her own quivering spirit. Clara? David's voice, now softer, slipped through the thick tension. It's okay. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. His words anchored her, and suddenly, the ornate walls of the ballroom, glittering chandeliers, and the overly impressed crowd began to blur. This wasn't just about the engagement or the title, it was about her. About the truth hidden in plain sight. Clara closed her eyes briefly, allowing herself a moment of clarity among the chaos. Maybe it could be simple. Maybe, just for tonight, she could embrace this fantasy. People weren't truly judging, perhaps they were merely curious. She opened her eyes, locking onto David's earnest expression that promised support, understanding, and a piece of his world. If he believed she belonged here, maybe she could, even if just for a fleeting moment. Are you sure? She whispered, her voice barely cutting through the silence surrounding them. David nodded, his grip steady. I'll be right here with you. Clara exhaled, a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Before she could wrap her mind around what she was about to say, the words rushed out. Yes. It fell from her lips like a secret, a leap of faith made in an instant that felt both liberating and terrifying. A delighted cheer erupted from the crowd, dense and euphoric, enveloping her. Cameras flashed like lightning, capturing the moment, sealing it into memory. She felt awash in the warmth of approval, even as her heart thundered with uncertainty. Her cheeks flushed partly from the attention, but mostly from the thrill of owning this role, of stepping forward as David's betrothed. A mix of exhilaration and fear washed over her. What had she just done? Was she really ready for this? David stepped closer, his eyes dancing with pride and affection. "See? You're natural at this," he teased, his playful tone easing her apprehensions. But Clara felt a knot in her stomach. She was still the same girl from a modest background, imposter or not, the truth lingered, like a shadow behind her. Could she keep up this charade? She looked out at the crowd, faces gleaming with excitement. Yet, in the periphery, Clara noticed the same woman who had brought this moment forward. Something about her smile felt sharp, laced with an unspoken challenge. Clara shivered slightly as cold dread slipped in. "Congratulations to the happy couple," the woman exclaimed, her voice dripping with honeyed sarcasm. "We can't wait to hear all the gossip about the wedding plans." The crowd laughed, and Clara found her stomach churning again. In that moment, she suddenly felt the walls of expectation close in. What if they started asking questions? What if they discovered her truth? David, sensing her change in mood, leaned in. "Ignore her," he murmured, brushing his lips near her ear, sending a thrill racing through her. "Let us focus on us." Yet, Clara couldn't lose the feeling of impending doom. The thrill of the engagement fizzled, replaced with a fresh wave of anxiety. How long could this fairy tale last? And then, amidst the cheers and applause, the woman held a glass raised high. "Let us toast to the next captain of this ship, shall we? And for our humble maid." Clara gasped. Humble maid? Had her secret been exposed already? Panic surged. David squeezed her hand tighter, but the night suddenly felt precarious. As the crowd joined in the toast, Clara stood there, wrestling with dread and desire. Would the fairy tale unravel before her very eyes? "Why did I say yes?" she whispered to herself, caught between the excitement of love and the horror of her lie. What would happen if the truth surfaced, crashing this fairy tale moment into a reality she couldn't escape? The night stretched ahead of her, filled with unanswered questions and the hollow echo of uncertainty. Clara felt the ground shift beneath her, the masquerade had just begun, and she was about to discover the depths of her own courage. What would be uncovered in the next heartbeat? Clara's heart raced, a thunderous drum echoing in her ears. The woman's words hung in the air like a dark cloud, clinging to her senses. Humble maid. The phrase cut deep, as if it had sliced through the fairy tale moment she'd just stepped into. David's hand felt like her only lifeline, solid and warm, but was it enough? The crowd's laughter twisted into a murmur, like the wind shifting before a storm. Clara's instinct was to retreat, to slip behind the safety of anonymity she'd clung to for so long. Instead, the spotlight shone brighter, forcing her to confront the truth she had dreaded. What if her past couldn't be buried, even amidst the glitz and glamour? "Clara," David said with a focused stare, as if he could read her mind. "Breathe. Just breathe and look at me." She focused on the soft kindness in his eyes, the assurance anchoring her just above the chaos. But before she could settle her thoughts, the woman continued, her tone even more mocking. "Tell us, dear Clara, what is your plan for the wedding? A grand affair, I assume? Perhaps a simple gathering at the local church?" The laughter rippled through the crowd, a cruel undertone threading through the amusement. Clara felt a heat rising to her cheeks. Was this her life now? A stage for people to point and laugh? She gritted her teeth, anger bubbling beneath the surface. Who was this woman to strip away her dignity, to make mockery out of her newfound happiness? "Let us not keep the audience in suspense," David said, his voice smooth but firm. "Clara has wonderful plans that I can't wait to share." Her pulse quickened. The words left his mouth with confidence, as if they had rehearsed this moment 100 times, yet Clara was devoid of any script. What plans? What did she really want? She swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. A deep breath steadied her. She was going to let another person define her reality. Actually, she began, her voice gaining strength, I've decided to keep things intimate. A true reflection of love rather than opulence. A new vibe shifted through the audience, surprise, admiration, even a hint of respect. The woman's smile faltered, her expression shifting to something almost bewildered. Clara's heart swelled slightly, her voice unfurling like a fragile flower in the sun. Weddings aren't about grandeur, but about two people committing to a life together, however humble that starts. The applause spread like wildfire, igniting a sense of empowerment within her. Ignoring the woman's steely gaze slicing through the room, Clara turned to David, who wore the brightest smile. Now, that's my fiancé, he declared, his pride radiating across the ballroom. But as the chatter swelled around her, doubts whispered in her mind. What if they find out? Clara whispered to David, her fear creeping back. What if they learn who I really am? David stepped closer. Then we'll face it together. No secrets between us, Clara. Those words, so simple yet profound, wrapped around her heart like a warm blanket. She could almost see their future, a blend of love and raw honesty. Yet, in the corners of the room, tension still brewed. The woman clenched her drink, her demeanor transformed into something resembling a challenge. You may have earned their applause now, she said, leaning forward, but the true test of your worth as David's fiancé lies ahead. Let us see if you can keep it up. Clara's heart thudded violently. What was this challenge? What expectations were lurking beneath the surface? She felt the stir of fear wrap around her, but also the fire of determination. This was her life, her love. She was not going to let someone else dictate her worth. As the night progressed, the whispers and curious glances surrounded her, shaping an invisible barricade she had to navigate. With David by her side, she felt braver, but the future loomed before her like a dark, treacherous path. What lay at the end of that road? Clara could sense the tempest brewing. What truths would she have to face? And how deeply was she willing to dig into her own past to secure her place in this unexpected future? The music faded into the background, but her heart was just beginning to beat with purpose. Clara clutched David's hand tighter, feeling the weight of the moment pressing on her. The applause was still ringing in her ears, but the thrill of victory quickly twisted into anxiety. She couldn't shake the woman's challenge from her mind. What did she need to do to prove she was worthy of this life, of David? Are you okay? David leaned in, his brow creased with concern. She forced a smile, but it felt more like a mask than a reflection of her feelings. I just need some air. She squeezed his hand, then slipped away from the throng, each step pulling her further from the laughter and light that now felt suffocating. As she stepped onto the balcony, the cool night air hit her, clearing the swirling chaos that had taken residence in her mind. The city sprawled beneath her, twinkling lights dotted like stars fallen to earth. Clara drew a deep breath, letting the chill seep into her lungs. This was supposed to be a joyful occasion, but the reality of her past loomed like a shadow. How could she ensure that her journey was truly her own? Hey! David appeared behind her, warmth radiating from his body. You disappeared. His voice had a gentle lilt, wrapping around her like his arms. I just needed to think. She turned to face him, the golden light from the ballroom spilling onto the balcony, illuminating their shared space. What is going on in that beautiful mind of yours? She searched his eyes, hoping for understanding. What if I can't keep this up? What if they find out who I used to be? A lump formed in her throat. What if I'm just a fake? David shook his head, a fierce look settling upon his features. You're not a fake. You're real, Clara. You're here because you're brave, and you're not alone in this. The sincerity in his voice tugged at her heart. But I'm not like them, David. I wasn't raised in this world of glitz. I've fought for every small piece of happiness. The fear wrapped around her again, this time squeezing tighter. He stepped closer, cupping her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him. You are exactly where you belong, right here, right now. You're my fiancée, and that means something. It means everything. His words lit a flicker of hope inside her, but the doubts were relentless. You say that now, but what about tomorrow? What happens when people start digging? Let them dig. You have nothing to hide. The unexpected confidence in his tone surprised her. But I do. There are so many things I've buried. What if it all comes back? Then we'll face it together. I promise you, I won't let anyone tear you down. David's eyes burned with conviction, a fire she craved to believe in. For a moment, she allowed herself to picture a future where they could walk forward without the burdens of their pasts weighing them down. But the laugh echoed in her memory, ricocheting off walls she thought were higher. The woman's challenge haunted her still. She needed to confront her past, not just for herself but for David too. If she didn't embrace her truth, how could she ever truly accept the life they were building together? Okay, she whispered, finding strength in his unwavering gaze. I'll try. Good. David leaned in, placing a soft kiss on her forehead. It sent warmth through her, easing a sliver of her doubts. But as they turned to re-enter the ballroom, Clara caught sight of the woman who had issued the challenge. She stood near the entrance, arms crossed, a smirk dancing across her lips. Clara's heart raced. What was she planning next? David's hand twitched to grasp hers again, sensing her tension. Are you ready? Clara took a deep breath, feeling that familiar flutter of determination. She had a long road ahead of her. But what she didn't expect was how much would be revealed in the process. What secrets were hidden beneath the surface of her past? And how would facing them change everything in her future with David? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. She wasn't just fighting for herself now, she was fighting for them, for their love. And she could no longer hide. As Clara and David stepped back into the ballroom, the ambient sounds of laughter and clinking glasses washed over them like a wave. Clara's heart thumped loudly in her chest, each beat echoing her anxiety. She couldn't shake the feeling that the woman at the entrance was watching her, plotting her next move. The crowd swirled with opulence, elegantly dressed couples gliding across the room. Clara couldn't help but feel out of place, a mismatched puzzle piece in a perfectly polished picture. Just act normal, she whispered to herself, even as the air thickened with pressure. Clara? David's voice cut through her spiral of thoughts. He nudged her gently, a reassuring smile lighting up his face. Just look at me. She met his gaze, and warmth seeped back into her veins. Let's dance, he suggested, pulling her towards the dance floor. Forget everything else, even for a moment. Clara nodded, grateful for his presence, his support anchoring her to reality. As they moved to the music, Clara slipped into the rhythm, letting it carry her away from the doubts crowding her mind. David's hands were firm on her waist, leading her with confidence. She closed her eyes, letting the melody wash over her. Here, in this moment, everything felt perfect. But the woman's smirk lingered at the edges of her mind, a ghost she couldn't shake. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she spotted the woman again, weaving through the crowd like a predator stalking its prey. Clara's stomach twisted. What was she doing here? Was she planning to unleash her secrets? Hey, David whispered softly, drawing her attention back to him. You okay? His forehead creased again, concern radiating from him. Yeah. Just a little overwhelmed. Clara forced her smile, but inside, an anxiety storm was brewing. Suddenly, the music shifted to something slower, a romantic ballad that enveloped the room like a hug. The tempo lulled her into a temporary calm. David's hands fell softly to her shoulders, holding her gently as they swayed. You know, he murmured, I believe in you. Whatever you're worried about, we'll tackle it together. I wish I had your faith, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. There's so much that could come crashing down if the truth comes out. The words weighed heavily on her chest. I promise you this, David said, his expression fierce and resolute. You're strong. You're more than your past. You're my future. The flame in his voice ignited something deep within Clara. A tingle of hope mixed with fear. But just then, the woman snapped her fingers, successfully pulling the attention of nearby guests. Well, if it isn't the happy couple, she called out, feigning sweetness. I'd hate to interrupt, but rumor has it Clara has a few skeletons in her closet. Clara's breath hitched, panic surging through her. Silence fell over the crowd. All eyes turned to her. David's grip tightened as he shifted defensively in front of Clara, shielding her. That's enough, he said firmly, but the tension in the air crackled. The woman smirked and crossed her arms. But I wouldn't want to ruin the mood. I just thought a little truth wouldn't hurt. Clara felt all eyes on her, curiosity mixed with judgment, whispers rippling through the ballroom. They were waiting for her response, for some hint of her hidden past that they could devour. David turned to her, encouragingly, but the pressure surged, flooding her with doubts. Did she have the strength to face this challenge head-on? In that moment, Clara made a decision. She had to confront what waited in the dark corners of her past. She owed it to herself and to David. I won't hide anymore, she called out, her voice breaking the suffocating silence. The words felt both liberating and terrifying. Could she truly be ready for whatever would come next? The crowd leaned in, curiosity awakening again. David looked at her, pride mixed with concern. But before Clara could elaborate, the woman raised an eyebrow, ready to pounce. Really? Is that what you truly believe? With the spotlight now squarely on Clara, uncertainty danced in her heart, but she felt David's unwavering strength beside her. Would this moment be the beginning of her liberation or the destruction of everything she held dear? Clara took a deep breath, ready to face the storm. Yes, she finally answered, stepping forward into the fray. But was she truly prepared for what awaited her? The air felt thick with anticipation as Clara's heartbeat quickened. Time seemed to stretch, like an elastic band holding back a cascade of emotions. She stepped out from behind David, the warmth of his body slowly releasing her like a tether being cut. The murmur of the crowd surged, building a symphony of whispers that echoed in her ears. Clara's throat felt dry as she searched for the right words. She had never been one for the spotlight, and now it felt like an unwelcome intruder. But deep down, a flicker of resolve sparked to life. I may have a past, she began, her voice growing steadier with each syllable. But it doesn't define me. I am more than what you think you know. David's expression remained steadfast. His presence was a shield, and with it, she felt the weight of her burden start to lighten. She glanced at the woman, the self-styled harbinger of public shame. What I've been through might not be pretty, Clara continued, but it's made me who I am today. And I won't let anyone silence me. The woman's smirk faltered, just slightly, her confidence wavering in the face of Clara's defiance. You think you can just brush it all off? She called, her voice sharp. Everyone loves a story, especially one that unfolds with a bang. So what's the secret, Clara? Clara inhaled deeply, the choice before her transforming from a burden to a vehicle of freedom. Every second felt electrifying. I made mistakes. I've hurt people, and I've been hurt in return. She forced herself to meet the stares of those around her. But I've grown from them. I'm not proud of all my choices, but I own them. In that moment, the room changed. Clara could feel the crowd's energy shifting, no longer just spectators bouncing between gossip and judgment. They were listening, really listening. Their eyes softened. She saw a flicker of empathy in some faces and perhaps a hint of understanding in others. What's more important than the past, Clara said, her voice ringing out with clarity, is how it shapes our future. She turned her gaze to David, who beamed as he grasped her hand tightly, reinforcing her newfound courage. I've chosen to fight for love, for trust, for the chance to be truly happy. Not just for me, but for us. The woman lifted her chin defiantly, but her bravado was leaking away as Clara pressed on. So go ahead and share your little secrets. But understand this, my worth isn't dictated by shadows from yesterday. I choose to step into the light, not hide in darkness. A ripple of applause broke the tension, and Clara's heart swelled as the sound cascaded over her like a warm wave. She hadn't expected such acceptance, such warmth thrown in her direction. But even amidst the triumph, Clara could feel the flickering of unrest under the surface. The woman wasn't just going to stand down. There was too much at stake for her. You might think you've won this round, she hissed, her voice low but fiery. But this game has just begun. In that chilling moment, Clara's fingers tightened around David's hand, and they exchanged glances that spoke volumes. She realized that while she had taken a significant step toward her own freedom, the battle was far from over. The potential for betrayal still lingered, hanging like a dark cloud ready to gather storm. Would they navigate the tumultuous waters that lay ahead together? Clara's heart raced with both fear and determination as she prepared for the next chapter of her life, knowing well that the revelations had only just begun. What secrets lurked in the shadows, waiting to be unearthed? Clara was ready to find out. Clara stood on the stage, feeling the energy of the crowd shift around her. The applause was a warm balm on her spirits, but even as it surged, whispers from the edges crept back in. Doubts began to flutter in her mind like moths drawn to a flame. Was the moment truly hers? Could she maintain her ground? David shifted beside her, pulling her closer. She glanced over at him and saw pride shimmering in his eyes, a vivid contrast to the nervous fluttering in her own stomach. "You're amazing," he mouthed, an encouragement that wrapped around her like a cocoon. It was more than just the immediate approval, it was the promise of support for whatever lay ahead. Yet the woman, the embodiment of resentment and bitterness, still stood there glaring with venomous intent. Clara could see the decline of her confidence mirrored in her eyes. Still, she was not done. "You think I'm going to let you take this from me? You think your pathetic speech will save you?" The venom dripped from her voice, holding the audience frozen in anticipation. Clara took a steadying breath. "Whatever you think you can take from me, please try. I won't back down. This is my life, my story." Could it be that simple? The old Clara, buried so deep, always found herself replaying her mistakes. But this was about her future, her chance to finally rewrite the narrative. Behind her, the crowd stirred. They were shifting from a collective judgment into something far more tangible: hope. Clara then pivoted her gaze to meet each pair of eyes. "I won't let my past dictate who I am now." With those words, she turned back to the woman. "You may think you have all the power, but your secrets can't ruin the strength I've built." As murmurs rippled through the audience, a part of Clara felt electric with adrenaline. There was acceptance here, the kind that fueled her resolve. The woman's sneer faltered again, revealing the uncertainty beneath. "You think this is empowerment? You're just a project of sympathy, a tragic story that's trying to convince itself that it's a hero," she retorted, but her voice was less sharp now, more desperate. Clara seized on that weakness. "No. I'm the author of my story. You can spread whatever rumors you want, but the truth is, I'm standing here, defying everything you think I am." She took another step forward, the crowd's energy lifting her. Then it happened. A voice from the back of the crowd called out, "We're with you, Clara." A chorus of agreement followed, buoying her spirit higher. Those who had once shunned her now cheered, and it ignited something inside her like a match to kindling. But as the noise swelled, the woman's expression twisted with rage. She was losing control, and Clara knew it wouldn't end here. Just when she thought victory seemed within grasp, that same voice called out again, still retaining just a tinge of reproach. "Just remember, secrets have a way of catching up to you." A chill washed over Clara as she processed the implications. The weight of that statement echoed in her mind, activating that old fear. What did it mean? What secrets did she still carry, ones that were perhaps too heavy to confront? David's grip squeezed hers tighter, grounding her amidst the storm brewing within her. "Let us go," he whispered, sensing her turbulent thoughts. And just like that, Clara made her choice. There was a path ahead, but it would be fraught with revelations and consequences. Could facing her past and the shadows still lurking within her lead to a future she had longed for? The question haunted her as they stepped down from the stage, the cheers slowly fading yet rekindling a flicker of hope. But the uncertainty lingered as a new challenge awaited. What truths would she have to confront next, and how far would she need to go to protect her new life? Clara felt the thrill of victory slip through her fingers as she stepped off the stage, her heart pounding in her chest. The crowd still reverberated with applause, but the woman's parting words haunted her. Secrets. The word hung heavy, pressing down on her like a weighted blanket. As they made their way into the dimly lit hallway of the venue, Clara's mind raced. David stayed close, sensing her struggle. "You were incredible up there," he said, squeezing her hand. But his grin faltered as Clara's face fell. "What if those secrets, what if they are worse than I think?" she murmured, her breath shaky. David stopped in his tracks, his expression earnest. "It doesn't matter what's in your past. You just showed everyone your strength, Clara. That matters now." She wished she could believe that. But the echoes of the woman's accusation hung in her ears. Clara could almost see the shadows of her former self creeping back in, nudging her to doubt everything she had fought for. As they reached the exit, a familiar face caught her eye. It was her old friend, Mia. Clara hadn't seen her in years, not since she had left town and her old life behind. Panic surged through her. What if Mia knew her secrets? What if this reunion dragged her back into that world? "Clara. Is that really you?" Mia's voice rang out, and before Clara could respond, she swept her into a warm embrace. Clara hesitated, her body tensing at the touch. "It's been so long." Mia stepped back, studying her. "You look amazing. How have you been?" Good. Really good," Clara lied. The unease soured the sweetness of the moment. Mia's face brightened. "I saw you on stage. Everyone's buzzing about your speech. It was so brave." "Thanks," Clara replied, but her smile slipped as the doubts crept back. "How did you end up here?" Mia shrugged, her eyes shimmering with excitement. "I moved back to help my mom. I heard you were coming and had to see for myself." "What do I say now?" Clara felt the weight of her past like a stone tethered to her wrist. You won't tell anyone, right? About what's happened with me?" Mia's brows knitted together. "Of course not. You're still you, Clara. Nothing changes that." "But I've heard rumors," Clara gulped, her stomach twisting. Here it was the revelation she dreaded. "What rumors?" "Just whispers about your past, the drama, the darkness," Mia replied cautiously, her voice dropping slightly. "I know people can be cruel." Clara's heart raced. "I can't go back. I want tea." The panic rose like a tide. David stepped in, sensing her distress. "She's not her past. Let her tell you what she wants to. It's her story." Mia nodded slowly, but Clara could see the flicker of curiosity in her eyes. "I'll tell you everything, just, not right now, okay?" Clara's voice trembled as the pressure mounted. Mia paused for a moment, reading her. "Whenever you're ready, I'll be here." They parted ways with a quick hug, but as Clara and David walked down the street, the weight felt heavier. What if Mia knows more than I realize? What if I can't escape my past? David looked straight ahead, determination in his gaze. "Then we'll figure it out together." Finally, Clara met his eyes, her heart aching with gratitude. Yet a chill in her stomach remained. The unknown loomed large ahead of them. As they stepped into the night, Clara's mind raced. What else might she discover about herself? And more importantly, what truths would unfold next, threatening to upend everything she had fought for? Clara stood beside David beneath the twinkling stars, feeling the cool breeze chase away the remnants of the gala's chaos. She didn't know what the future held, but she felt lighter, as though sharing her truth had begun to break the chains tethering her past to her heart. "Do you really mean it?" Clara asked softly, her eyes searching David's. "About facing it together?" "Absolutely," he replied, his voice steady. "We're in this as a team." She inhaled deeply, taking comfort in that promise. But the shadows of her past flickered at the edges of her mind. As they walked further from the hotel, Clara's heart grappled with uncertainty. The echoes of the woman's challenge remained alive in her thoughts, pushing her toward confrontation. "David," she began hesitantly, "what if the past finds me? What if they find out that I'm just this maid pretending to fit into a world that doesn't belong to me?" "You're more than that, Maid," he replied strongly. "That girl has grown. You've shown strength tonight. You can face anything if you choose to own your past instead of running from it." His words were a lifeline, weaving through her doubts. Yet, they couldn't completely dispel the tremor within her. What if Mia starts asking questions? What if the truth brings everything crashing down? "Then you share your truth first," David suggested, squeezing her hand. "You redefine the narrative, Clara. And I'll be right by your side." She nodded, feeling the warmth of his support wrap around her like a blanket. But still, her mind raced with what-ifs. What if her past was too heavy? What if the people she loved couldn't step into her present? "Can we take a moment?" she asked, suddenly overwhelmed. "I need to think. Just away from all this." "Of course," David replied, leading her to a nearby park where the soft rustling of leaves filled the air like a soothing lullaby. They settled on a bench, beneath the moonlight casting silvery shadows. Clara felt the weight of the night pressing on her. The silence enveloped them, and she could finally breathe, but every inhale brought a sharp reminder of her hidden truths, secrets that danced just beyond her reach. "What if revealing my past makes me lose everything?" "You could walk away, don't," he interjected, his tone gentle yet firm. "I'm not going anywhere. If anything, I'll fight harder to stay by your side." The sincerity in his voice resonated deep within her, igniting hope. She wanted desperately to believe that she could stand triumphant, arms wide open toward her future, but the fear was a murky shadow in the corner of her mind. Gathering courage, she asked, "What happens if they judge me? If they don't see my worth?" "All that matters is what we see," he countered softly, brushing his fingers across her cheek. "What do you see?" She looked into his eyes, allowing herself to reflect on his question. "I want to be brave enough to fight for this life. I want the chance to make things right, to show my family a better future, with you." "Then that's your vision," he affirmed, his eyes glistening with determination. "From this moment, no one gets to tell your story but you." Filled with newfound resolve, Clara leaned in closer to him, letting the pulse of her heart settle. David's presence was like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. "I'm ready," she whispered. "To face it all." And just like that, she felt a shift. The shadows shrank, and the first trickle of dawn snuck over the horizon. With renewed energy in her veins, they made their way back to the hotel. Clara's heart raced as they stepped inside, the echoes of laughter and masked expectation still lingering in the air. This time, she felt empowered. Everything they faced had only strengthened her resolve. "I'm ready to talk to Mia," Clara said, determination blending with excitement. "She deserves to know the real me. That's the spirit." David cheered, his pride washing over like a wave. "And you can own every word." As they approached the crowd, Clara spotted Mia talking with several other friends, laughter punctuating the air. Heart in her throat, Clara stepped forward with David. Beside her, every bit of hesitation replaced with clarity. "Mia." Clara called out, the familiarity of her friend's name smoothing the jagged edges of her anxiety. Mia turned, surprise lighting her features as she locked eyes with Clara. "There you are. I was hoping to catch you." Clara exhaled, grounding herself in the moment. "I wanted to share something with you, about my past." The shifts in conversation softened as Mia's playful demeanor shifted into something more serious. "Okay, I'm all ears." With David's steady presence encouraging her, Clara began unraveling her story. She shared the challenges she faced growing up, the dreams she fought between being a maid and a hopeful heart chasing after change. Step by step, she illuminated the shadows, no longer fearing their weight, but rather embracing them as they shaped who she was. Mia listened intently, her expression shifting from surprise to admiration. During the share, Clara's voice strengthened, each word releasing burdens she had carried for so long. David stood quietly beside her, a pillar of unwavering support, anchoring her amidst the storm of uncertainty. As she reached the end of her story, Clara glanced at Mia, who wore an expression of understanding and compassion. "Thank you for being honest," Mia said softly. "That's brave of you. You're still you, glowing with strength, no matter what." In that moment, Clara felt the air shift, warmth pouring over her as she recognized the power of vulnerability. "And you too," she replied, her voice steady. "You're my friend, and I want to rebuild that connection." Mia smiled brightly, wrapping Clara in a heartfelt embrace. "Then let us make new memories from here on out." Cheers erupted around them, laughter and support radiating through the crowd. Clara's heart swelled, no longer constricted by her past, but instead unfurling into a more vibrant future. David moved closer, embracing Clara lightly. "See how it feels to take back control." The air buzzed with positivity. Clara let that truth settle inside her. She was stronger than fear. The challenges ahead would unfold, but they would not chain her. She could embrace the journey ahead with care, and no longer run from the shadows. Even knowing the twists and turns she would face, she felt invincible at that moment. Clara understood crystal clear, this was just the beginning of her story, a powerful narrative that would keep evolving, day by day. As they moved off into the night, Clara felt a magnetic pull toward the future, emboldened by honesty and raw vulnerability. She would embrace whatever came next, armed with the trust of those around her and the love of the one who believed in her. After all, she was no longer just a maid, she was Clara Parker, a woman born anew, ready to fight, ready to love, ready to shine. And the journey had just begun. Now, it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss exclusive stories like this one. Leave a like right this second to feed the algorithm and keep our community thriving. Comment below your feelings and reactions about Clara's powerful journey to transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this inspiring change. Only true fans understand the vitality of supporting this channel through your engagement. Let us keep the positivity flowing.